Really good. Okay.
Hi, welcome back. It's week 5, and I hope that you're really starting to notice the difference in true core movement. So this week we're going to be incorporating some new movements in. We're going to be working in a tabletop position or a quadruped position on all fours. We're also going to be working with bridging again to really challenge the legs, and as well as incorporating much of what we've worked in week 4. So we're really starting to turn up the dial here in how hard we're working. But as always, if you feel like, gosh, I don't think I'm ready for week 5 yet, go back to week 4 or week 3 and work from there, maybe a couple more days, and then rejoin us and revisit week 5 when you're ready. Ultimately, this is about your body. I just want to review a couple of things here before we get started. Remember the concept of misfiring. That means that what's done is done. That if I'm overworking beyond what my body can do, my muscles are going to start grabbing at other muscles to help them, and I'm no longer in the right body parts. So I want you to pull back. I also want you to pay attention and remember again, pelvic floor initiates. So even if I may not be saying it, we're always going to the pelvic floor first and then into that transversus and then into the exercise to really ensure that we're working from the inside out. It's not about the arms and legs. It's really about working from the core into the arms and legs so we can really feel true stability. Let's begin. All right, welcome back. It's week 5. So Lainey's going to take us through a warm-up of flexion and extension and lateral extension again. So we'll work 5 rounds. Here we go, Lainey. Inhale, extending, move your body, and then exhaling, folding down, relax your head. Rolling yourself up, inhaling, wave the pelvis forward. Notice how our knees are bent, and then exhaling, coming down again. So you're going to do 3 more. It's really important, if necessary, to bend the knees on that extension, especially if the front line of your body is tight. Extension actually works your core more effectively than flexion, which is one of the #1 reasons why we use a mini ball in our core work rather than being flat on your back. Secondly, most of the exercises we do during the day or movements are all forward flexion based. So we really want to change that up and start teaching our body more functional patterns. Perfect. Lainey's going to face you now, and we're going to work with that rolling oblique. So here we go. Feet are about an A frame. Palm face up. We'll work with a bent elbow. Inhale, hips kick out to initiate. Roll it out to the side, and then exhale. Pull the bent elbow. Rock yourself back up. So 4 more. Imagine stacking from the bottom to the top when you come up. So pelvis shifts into alignment, then the rib cage and torso, then the head, neck, and arm, rather than thinking about pulling up with the arm. So we're doing 5 one way, and then we'll work 5 the opposite direction. Nice job. And if you're feeling tight, just take it nice and slow. Breathe. So inhaling when you're rolling. Exhale, pelvic floor contracts. If you're feeling pressure down into your pelvic floor when you roll up, you know that that's still a weak point for you. Really work to keep your hips squared forward, especially the hip that you're rolling into. Nice job. And then after that 5, you're going to go back to the weaker side for 2-to-1 ratio. Breathe into the top side lung. Open up all that tight fascia. So Lainey's going to switch. Great job, Lainey. All right, here we go. Notice your feet staying plugged in. So when you're rolling, make sure too that your feet aren't rolling. And I hope that you have your shoes off and your socks off as well. If it bothers your neck, feel free. You do not have to look up. Lainey's doing a great job of looking up, but you can also look forward or down. Remember, if your body won't go there, we have to ask ourselves why and pull back to retrain those body parts. Awesome. So now Lainey's going to come down to a kneeling position. And why don't you turn sideways, Lainey? And she's going to come into neutral pelvis and tuck the ball snugly between her hamstring and her calf. Now this is not an easy balance pose. Lainey's going to contract the ball between her hamstring and her calf. Find neutral pelvis and see if she can lift that leg just about an inch or so. And let's see if we can take a couple breaths. Again, not as easy as it looks. Do the best that you can. Don't worry, Lainey, we'll humor you because this is not easy for me either. So just take a couple of breaths. So it's just a good balance check. Where am I at? Awesome. Now, Lainey, do you want to face us and then just switch and do the other leg so you can see a front profile or front sideline? Oops, sorry about that, guys. I mean to move the camera. All right, so now Lainey again is going to pin the ball, lift the knee barely. So it's not going to go high. She's going to try to minimize as much lean as she can, but it's a work in progress. Imagine really using the glute cheek on your base side. Eye line is forward and out, shoulders are soft. Awesome, and then just switch to your weaker side. Give that weaker side a little bit more of a hurrah. Again, pin the ball. Relax the shoulders, body feels upright, pelvic neutral. Exhale, contract the pelvic floor, lift up that leg just enough to maybe slide a piece of paper underneath. Again, it doesn't have to be high. Perfect. Great job. So nice little warm up here that will definitely feed us into the rest of the practice today. Lainey, when you're ready, turn yourself sideways and bring the ball underneath or behind the back, sorry, for some V position core work. So take a moment for yourself at home. We're just going to get all set up here. Perfect. All right, so when you're ready, let's find ourselves sitting on our sitting bones. If you need to, feel free to place a ball between the knees to really ensure that we feel grounded and rooted. Feet are firmly planted or something underneath the feet to help them be planted. So nice inhale, breathe into your lungs. Exhale, tilt your pelvis. Nice. Inhale, ride it back 45 degrees. Excellent. So we're going to find that earthquake, so adjust your arm angles. See if you're improving as the weeks go on. Remember, we're looking for no rectus pufus, strong pelvic core contraction, breathing into the lungs. We're going to go right into up, down. So Elaine's going to lower her arms on the exhale, and inhale, bring them up, really soft shoulders. Nice. And then down, exhale, contract the pelvic floor. Imagine as the arms go down, the pelvic floor rises, kind of like a levee. Awesome. Lainey's doing a great job. So we're going to work to 10 today again. And if you feel like that 10 is a little bit too much, work 5, work 7, work 9. When we feel that misfiring happening or that overload principle, what's done is done, I really want to encourage you to stop. You're doing a great job. Keep breathing. Focus on breathing wide into the rib cage. Soft jaw, soft neck, really calm eyes. Awesome. Little squeeze between the knees on the ball. If you're feeling any hip flexor, that will help. Now, nice big breath in. Exhale, float yourself up. Just pause. We're going to go right back into it. Pelvic floor or pelvic tilts. Inhale, ride it back, long spine, open, close. Angle your arms, inhaling, opening, and then exhaling, closing. Imagine scooping in on that big book. And then exhaling, obliques wrap to center, soften the shoulders. Inhale, open, and exhale. Watch for hip flexor pain. 1, am I arcing over the ball with my pelvis so I haven't initiated that pelvic tilt? Really pay attention to that. Nice job. Soften the shoulders. Chin is level with the floor. No need to look at the ceiling. Nice. So again, 5 to 10. You should be feeling much more strength in your middle since we're on week 5. As long as you've been committing to 3 to 5 times a week. And hopefully you're noticing the use of your core just in normal everyday function. On the exhale, float it up. Nice. Give yourself a rest over the knees. Take a moment and pause. So as a review, we're going to work into the obliques this time. Still feel free to go back to genie style arms, or you're going to work with that reach back, pull back, look back. Keeping the pelvis and hips super steady and stable. So let's do the setup. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, pelvic tilt. The pelvic tilt is here, not here. And then inhale, ride it back to a modest 45. Lainey's going to work with her left arm. Inhale, reach back, pull back, look back. Just pause for a second, Lainey. Open chest. Exhale, shoot it back to center. Nice. She's going to do 4 more. Feel free. 3 to 5 is definitely very, very challenging. 10 is probably not necessary. We're going to do enough work in this hour that you will find that this is just enough. If you need a break in between each side, I'll encourage you, feel free to take a break. Otherwise, Lainey's going to go right over to that opposite side. Remember, again, the legs are super steady. The pelvis is not moving on that ball behind the sacrum. Really important to pay attention to that. Nice. So inhaling, breathe into your lungs, turn the head, drop your moving shoulder. Awesome. And then I'm really going to push you today. We're going to go back to the weaker side right away. Take a break in between if you need to. Remember that overload principle. So when Lainey's ready, here she goes. This is her weaker side. Inhaling and then exhaling. 3 to 5, maybe just 2. Listen to your body. Keep the hip that you're turning towards nice and steady, almost like you're pushing it forward. Nice. Inhale, turn your torso. Awesome. Inhale and exhale. You're doing great. And after your last one, exhale, float it up into a bound angle. You deserve it. Nice job. All right, next movement is a new movement. We're going to come into a quadruped position or a tabletop. So Lainey's going to come on to all her knees, all 4s, wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. So we're just going to find some nice alignment. Couple key points before we bring the ball into the mix. First of all, folds of the elbows forward without hyperextending. We want to be feeling as though the weight is into the knuckles and into the center of the palm. So most of us lean back when really we should be leaning forward. I want to encourage you, if you're feeling some tightness or some inability to really stay planted in the hand, remember most of our movements during the day close the hand rather than open it. I'll encourage you to work with some wrist stretches. I have a great free YouTube video up that focuses all on wrists and shoulders. I encourage you to watch that if you're having some pain with that. You can also fold up a towel or roll up your mat to have something to cup over your hand in the meantime if you're having a lot of extreme pain. But if it's stretched, remember, is it pain or is it working? I want you to pay attention to that. Secondly, we want a broad upper back, no winging in the scapula, so Lainey's going to sink into her shoulder blades. You can see her rib cage falls. She's going to end up with lower back pain. Push down into your palms without hunching. I want you to smooth it out right here, Lainey, just a little bit, so bring it down. There we go. Awesome. Bottom of the rib cage is lifted. Pelvis is in neutral, parallel with the floor. Lower back is nice and long. We're not looking for a flat back. We're looking for a nice neutral line. Perfect. So once you feel comfortable here, just stay here. Don't even incorporate the ball. Or we're going to slide the ball. Lainey, you can do that honors for yourself, under one knee. Now we want to make sure it's under the knee rather than underneath the shin. And also imagine a bungee cord from your knee into your navel. That pelvic core contraction is what keeps the leg from rolling away. You can roll under the ball leg's toes for more stability or keep them unrolled if you want a little bit more of a challenge. If the leg is rolling away, you need to bring that variation back to a point that you feel more comfortable. All right, we're going to work with a stretching cat. Some people call this bird dog. There's a lot of names. Don't get caught up in the name. Lainey, can I just have you move forward just a little bit here? Sorry about that. Just so that you don't come off camera. Awesome. Thanks, Lainey. All right, so hips stay level, thigh stays parallel towards the floor. Nice big breath in, and now slowly extend opposite limb. So she has her right knee on the ball, so her left leg is going to lift. Keep the hips steady, no pelvic tilting. The goal is not to come higher than the hip, but to extend straight out or have the foot down on the floor. Perfect. So she can also be here. Awesome. Again, lower medius is contracting rather than just the minimus. Now from here, super steady. Sneak your opposite arm out to the side. So we're going to go out at T. Keeping that side of the torso closed down. Inhaling through the nose. Let's start 5 breaths here, Lainey. Exhaling. Press down into the base arm to keep a broad back. This is also teaching shoulder girdle stability, a nice little added bonus. If you're feeling, whoa, this is really too much, get off the ball and come onto all fours. You should instantly feel what that co-contraction feels like. The core stiffens. Down slowly, back to center. Perfect. Almost like you're sneaking into the movement. All right, switch the ball. Set yourself up, neutral pelvis, neutral spine, stable shoulder girdle. Now this next one, I'm going to have Lainey sneak her leg back so that the toes are barely on the floor. So when you're ready, Lainey, sneak it back. And she's going to barely rest her toe on the mat to the stability point. This is a great place to start, just to really checkpoint yourself that you're not biting off more than you can chew. Stay here now, Lainey. This time I'm going to have her lift her arm out, nice and slow. And then possibly consider lifting the leg. The leg is lifted too high if her hip bones tip towards the floor. Nice. Inhale through the nose, 5 breaths, Lainey. Exhale, a broad back without hunching. Nice. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling. So when she gets to that 5th breath or that 5th breath, she's going to lower her arm down slow and then slowly sneak her leg in as though she's never left tabletop. So coming in and out of the movement is definitely part of the movement. All right, back to your weaker side. So Lainey, you're going to choose your weaker side. So wrists go under the shoulders. Perfect. Yep, take that time to get that ball aligned. Rib cage is lifted, neutral pelvis. When you're ready, sneak your free leg back. Barely that the toe rests on the mat. That way you don't send the signal to your brain that, oh, I'm going to rest here. You're just hovering, barely touching. And then arm is going to release. Excellent. We're working at a T position to ensure the openness of the chest. We'll change it up later on. And then possibly lifting the leg. I'd rather have you an inch off the floor and keep neutral pelvis, which is in a sense going to be really keeping the core contracted, 5 breaths, Lainey. Or I'd rather have your foot on the floor. So again, lower glute, hamstring, deep transversus and pelvic floor. Nice. Keep the chest square down, no rolling your chest open. And then down slow on the exhale, nice job. Perfect. And then coming off the ball, you can sit back onto your heels, give yourself a nice stretch, really focus on breathing into the back body. Great job, Lainey. All right, so when you're ready, we're going to come onto our back, and we're going to place the ball underneath the sacrum. All right, so neutral pelvis, hip bones, pubis bones, shoulders are relaxed, rib cage is relaxed, and when Lainey's ready, I'm actually going to use these additional props. She's going to lift her legs up. Remember, you can just zip the legs together, but we have them, so we're going to use them. All right, legs stay parallel. You can see your feet. There should not be rotated externally. We're going to work with that hip tipping side to side. So when you're ready, inhale, tip to one side without kicking your hips out. Exhale, bring it back to center. So as you tip each way, your booty should not be slicing over to the opposite side. Really control it. Nice little hug on the props between the legs. And then exhaling, nice work. Inhaling and exhaling. It's a very small movement. It almost feels like right at the high natural waist. Nice job. I'm going to have Lainey do one more each way here. And then she's going to tip 5 more times to that more challenging side. Here she goes. When you tip, your legs should not be turning sideways. They're going to try to go right with the hip and then right back to center with the hip. The legs are an extension of the core. Great. Just stay with your breath and stay calm. I'm going to remove the ball, and she's going to slowly lower her feet back down. Great work. All right, so now we're going to work with circles. We didn't do this one last time, but we're going to be working with this one today. So keeping one leg, let's say you're right leg directly underneath the hip, not tight, but just in line. Planted, knee does not fall out to the side. It's going to very much almost feel like it's hugging the center line. Opposite leg floats up to tabletop without altering the pelvis. Remember, the movement comes from the hip socket, not from the knee. We're going to inhale, circle out, and then exhale, either come straight up through center or make that other half of the circle. So 5 one direction, and then we're going to do 5 the other direction. When we get too big for our core stability, we're going to be everywhere. So Lainey, just for the sake of working with her, she could challenge her arm variation to see where she's at with this size circle. If changing her arm variation makes the circle more challenging, why do you need to make the circle bigger? The stability is lost. See where I'm going with this? So 5 one direction and then 5 the other direction. Nice. It's a fairly quick breath, inhaling, exhaling, because the circle is small. But it doesn't mean that it's forced or breathy. Her foot is staying flexed to keep an active leg. She's doing a great job of that and really working hard to stay as steady as she can on the ball. When you're ready, drop the foot and then slowly and mindfully bring the opposite one up. Base leg is rooted. Don't forget about that leg. Inhale the first half of the circle, swing out. Exhale either straight up through center or make the other half of the circle. So 5 one direction and then 5 the other direction. Pay attention if you're squeezing the glutes. I want you to let those settle out a little bit and really get into your pelvic floor. I know this movement seems small, but it's not easy. I love the baby analogy. If I can't stand, I shouldn't walk. If I can't be on all fours, I'm not ready to crawl. So getting back into those little muscle groups again, in those little areas. Nice. So after her 5th one, she's going to drop down, 2-to-1 ratio. Which side needs more work? I would be happy with 2 to 5 circles each way. Inhale to begin, exhale to complete. You can either just stay along with Lainey or you can keep track on your own. So inhale, circling out, exhaling center. Nice job. Soft jaw, soft shoulders. Nice. Now you're reversing opposite direction for 5, maybe 3, maybe 2. Steady in the hips without squeezing with your glutes. Get into your pelvic floor. Get into the anal sphincter. Get into the perineum, into the urethra, all of those bottom muscles. And then dropping down. Nice. Just drop your knees open into a bound angle. Relax the legs, relax the hips. Just really create some openness. Mentally think about relaxing. If you'd like to, you can rock your hips side to side a little bit. So sending that signal from your brain to your body to say, okay, soften, soften, soften. All right, next movement is one of mine and Lainey's favorites. So neutral pelvis, legs up to tabletop, exhale, strong core. Remember, coming in and out is part of the movement. Feet are flexed. We're going to work with lift and lower. So let's work here now alternating, Lainey. You can work side to side if that makes more sense for you. So we're going to lower, inhale. Exhale, gather up your core strength. Inhale, rib cage breathing. Exhale, contract. Nice. Inhaling, so she's on her 2nd set. Exhaling, we're going to do 5 and 5. Inhaling. Soft jaw. Remember, relax. Relax doesn't mean I'm sloppy. Relax means I'm not tense and overstressed. And then once she's done 5 and 5, either one, you at home can drop down, take a moment, especially if you're feeling hip flexor pain. But 2, you're going to go right to that weaker side otherwise. Remember, because we're in neutral pelvis and we're off the floor, we're going to be feeling our back muscles. They are a part of our core. We need to work them. We have a fear of our back, but yet we overwork our front core, putting our back at even more risk and in jeopardy. So now we're working 360 core, which is going to make a huge difference for how you feel during the day. After your last one, take your time. Slowly lower down like you're sneaking out of the movement once you're there. Great job, Lainey. You're doing awesome. Soft shoulders, soft jaw, and then slowly, slowly, slower, lower down. Great job. Nice full body extension. Stretch it out. Really create some nice length here. Breathe into your lungs. Looks great. All right, so when you're ready, now you're going to turn onto your side. Place the ball under the oblique for our sideline work. All right, so we're going to work with the hover and hold. Great, staggered. So shoulders are soft. Let's lift and hold for 5 breaths. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, pelvic core is strong. Lift the leg, or lift the arm, I'm sorry. All right, so 5 breaths here. Focus on breathing into your lungs rather than into your front belly. Think about it. Are my legs staying grounded and steady? Okay, touch down anytime you need to. Then after that 5th breath, we're just going to touch down. We're not going to stretch it out. We're going to come right up again. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift. Relax your shoulders. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift it up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower it down. Exhale, hold. This is 3. So if you're at 3, feel free to rest down then when you're ready. Here's 4. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, now stretch it out. Great job. Awesome. All right, you can just roll over if you'd like to. Lainey's going to flip up and roll. Perfect. One long line, hips are stacked, legs can be staggered if necessary. All right, chest is open. We're going to work that 5-breath hover. Here we go. Release the elbow back. Inhaling, exhaling. Super stress-free in the upper body. Relaxed shoulders. She could challenge herself. How is she doing? Lift that front arm up for a moment. Good. Pretty good, lady. Nice. So again, 3 to 5 breaths. It would be just great. All right, here we go. Right away. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift the elbow. Inhale, float it up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, float it down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, float it up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, float it up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. Inhale, float it up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower down. Exhale, hold. We got one more. Inhale, float it up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, float it down. And exhale. Nice job. All right, that weaker side. I hope you start to notice the gap being bridged on that weaker side since we're halfway through our series. So we're going to go right away this time into lift and lower. We're not even going to hover and hold. We're just going to get right to the meat of it. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, release the elbow. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, hold. Inhale, lower. Exhale, hold. Inhale, up. Hold. Exhale, down. Hold. Focus on your breathing. This is 3. Keep going. This is 4. Inhale, hold, exhale. Inhale, down. Hold, exhale. One more. Inhale, lift. Hold, lower, and stretch it out. Nice job. Awesome. So Lainey's going to come up now. She's going to come to all 4. She's going to come to a tabletop position and actually slide the ball between her knees. So the ball won't be touching the floor. It'll just be right above it. She's going to have a nice neutral spine again. Wrists are under the shoulders. Her hands are wide. Folds of the elbows rotated so she's not overusing her chest. And we're going to first just hover the knees. Then we're going to work with a movement called tick-tock. So it's really a waistline movement, and the knees and the hips twist a little bit. So definitely a little bit of a challenging movement, but I know you're going to rock it. All right, so Lainey, roll your toes under. Let's just lift and hug on that green ball. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift the knees barely off the floor. Nice. It's easy to go high. It's hard to stay low. Give the ball a good squeeze. I'd say 30% of your capacity is a good starting place. Nice. Inhaling, breathing. Exhaling, contracting. Really feel the pelvic floor slide right up your body. Keep the weight into the knuckles rather than the heel of the hand. Let's go one more breath. Great job. And then dropping down. If you need to, roll out your wrists. Awesome. So now we're going to work with tick-tock. And again, this is not an easy movement, so really focus and practice on this. little lift. So when she's ready, she's going to lift her knees. We're just going to demo first for you. She's going to move her knees towards you. So inhale, twisting. Exhale, strong waist as she comes back to center. Now, Lainey, can you go the other way and lift your hips up too high? And so when she comes back up, see how she's hinging like a down dog? And then coming back down, bring yourself back to center. You can take a break on the floor if you want. I really want you to focus on not lifting the hips. It's like we're doing this underneath a kitchen table, okay? So way more core control rather than a hip hinge. Big difference, and you'll feel it. If your hips stay steady, you feel it more in your core. If your hips are popping, you're going to be like, what is this supposed to be feeling like? All right, we're going to try 3 each way today. All right, so nice big breath in. Give the ball a good hug. Lift your knees. Pause here on the exhale. Inhale, swing the knees out one way. Exhale, back to center. Inhale, swing the knees out the other way. Exhale, back to center. Nice. It's almost like you're twisting the balls of your feet on little discs. Stay broad in the upper back. Nice. So Lainey's going to do 3 each way. Good. Keep pressing into your arms, Lainey. There you go. Awesome. Drop down. Back to the weaker side for, let's say, 1 to 3. Like I said, this is not an easy movement. So when you're ready, inhale, prepare, lift the knees. Hug on that green ball. Here we go. Twist, inhale. Exhale, back to center. Really contract. Inhaling. She's not going any higher. Exhaling. Notice my hand. Inhaling and exhaling. Awesome. So remove the ball again, stretch back onto your heels. Give your booty a good stretch. Give your spine a good stretch. Take a couple really good breaths. You deserve it. All right, so now this time Lainey's going to come back onto her back and place the ball underneath her sacrum again. And we're going to work with that frog butterfly movement again. So this time, Lainey's going to first start at center and just do an open close of her knees for the butterfly. The second movement is going to be that butterfly with the frog that we worked on last week. So it's going to be an open of the knees and then pushing out 45 or 90 with that frog-like movement. So ball goes between her ankles. She's going to find stability, choose an appropriate arm variation. So for the first one, feet stay flexed, staying here with her thigh. She's going to inhale, open the knees, and then exhale, squeeze on the ball. Inhale, open, and exhale. Feet are flexed. How's that feeling? You good? Inhaling. Again, it's not a huge, obvious movement. It's a movement focusing on stability and strength. Awesome. Focus on breathing into your ribs laterally, and then exhaling, bringing that core to contraction at center. Great. Looking good. Let's do 4 more, Lainey. If you feel you're at a place where you need a toe touch down, again, listen to your body. Watch for that overload principle. And then after her last one, she's going to go right into the frog. Awesome. So she's going to inhale, open. No, go back to center. There you go. Exhale, press. Really work the legs parallel. Inhale, open the knees. No closer than the hip line. Exhale, press. Again, no rectus pufus. Inhaling. Exhale, rotate and press. Awesome. Inhale, open. Feet are flexed. Exhale, hug on the ball. Awesome. So we're working to 10. If you're starting to fatigue, just change the angle of your legs. If that still doesn't solve it, go back to the butterfly. If that still doesn't solve it, drop to the floor, take a break, and then join us when you're ready. There's always an option for you to stay successful in your body. One of my goals for you in these 10 weeks is to get you out of mindless, repetitious movement, thinking that that will somehow change you. Nice. Really feel the whole leg move. And then I'm going to take that ball for you and slowly lower the legs down. And then come into a nice butterfly on the floor, Lainey here. Just stretch open the hips. If you want to, you can kick your arms overhead. Give yourself some much needed space. Awesome. So now we're going to work into a sideline position once again. So Lainey's going to remove the ball, roll to face you. and we're gonna work with the legs. So I'm gonna take the ball, I'll help her get set up. She can lay it right down onto her side body, that's just fine. Making sure she's in one long line. Remember the leg series from last week? We're gonna first start with an up down with the top leg. I'm gonna slide the ball underneath her bottom ankle. Bring your legs back a little bit. There we go, how's that feel? Good? Awesome. Pressing the bottom leg into the ball, keeping her top leg parallel, almost like it's rotating forward. Bottom oblique lifted. We'll inhale, lift the top leg. Exhale, squeeze the orange between the legs. Nice. We're going to work to 10, lady. So inhaling, lifting, and exhaling, lowering. Keeping the foot flexed will also ensure more charge in the hip so that she's noticing a lot more work through here rather than the muscles just kind of sad and shabby waiting to be activated. So all these nooks and crannies really matter. I cannot stress that to you enough. Inhale when you're lifting, press the bottom leg into the green ball, exhaling as you come back down. So a nice little challenge on stability with that ball underneath the ankle versus being on the floor. You can be lifting an inch. You do not have to be lifting super high. The goal is not the ceiling, remember. Lainey's doing a great job. Okay, so now we're going to place the ball. Actually, we're going to leave that ball. There we go. All right, so no ball this time. Top leg is going to lift no higher than the hips. We're going to come right about here. And all we're going to simply do is bring the bottom leg up to meet the top leg. So when you're ready, this time we're going to exhale. So I want you to exhale, lift the bottom leg up. Inhale, lower it down. Exhale, lift the bottom leg up. Inhale, lower it down. Not easy, huh? Exhale, lift. And inhale, lower down. And the only reason why I'm flipping the breath is also the intention is a little bit different. We're really engaging the thighs together and engaging the pelvic floor. Now imagine trying to bring the entire leg together, not just the ankles. Because what people will do is they'll start turning and curling their foot to try to touch, and there's this big gap between the legs. Nice, Lainey. We're going to try for 10, okay? You're doing a great job. This is not easy. Nice. Again, engage that bottom leg. Perfect. Take a moment, relax. Now we're going to lift double legs with the ball back between the ankles again. So lift that up. Give it a good hug. No external rotation. Watch for the legs shooting forward. This is little. Bottom oblique stays charged. Pelvic floor stays engaged. Now inhale, engage on the ball. I'm going to have you lift on the exhale again this time. Exhale, lifting. Inhale, lowering. Exhale, lifting, keep the bottom oblique charged, inhale, lowering. So I'm doing some breath confusion for you guys through these weeks so that we really, again, cannot become so dependent on whether we're inhaling or exhaling. Some movements are more effective on an inhale or an exhale until we feel as though we can really, truly contract and breathe more laterally into our lungs. Good. I know you can give even more of a hug to that green ball, Lainey. There we go. Awesome. Nice, so we're going for 10. I'm going to pull her back a hair. There we go. Watch for that hip rolling back if necessary. Be against a wall. I'm going to remove the ball. She's going to stretch it out. Awesome. All right, let's flip to the other side. She'll come up and flip over. You can just roll over if you'd like to. So ball goes between the ankles. Oh, under the ankle, I'm sorry. All right, hips stay stacked, top shoulder stays relaxed. Flex your feet, engage the lower oblique. So we're going to lift on the inhale, and then exhale, hug that orange between the thighs. Pelvic floor surges towards the base of your head. Nice. Think about what you're doing. Pay attention to your body. Nice. Cohesively sync your body with the movement. I cannot stress that enough. Bottom leg roots into the green ball. Doing a great job, Lainey. Stay with us. Awesome. So now we're going to put the ball off to the side. And Lainey's gonna stack her hips and just bring her top leg up to hip level. It's not high. Remember, imagine bringing the thighs together first, then the shins, then the ankles. When you're ready, exhale, bottom leg to top leg. Inhale, lower the bottom leg down. Exhale, bottom leg to top leg. Inhale, lower down. We're working to 10. This was 8. We'll work backwards. So we're at 7 now. Keep breathing. This portion of the body should totally be unaltered, meaning we're not feeling this like rocky boat, staying stable. Even though this is a leg movement, really this is a core movement executed into the legs. See how that's a different mindset? You're doing great. Now, if you've done my CFF or my Core Functional Fitness online course, you're going to notice that some of these movements are maybe a little bit different, and we've added some that maybe you haven't gone over. I have hundreds of movements for you. So that training just gives you some of the basic ones, and we expand from there. All right, so here we go, last one. We're going to bring the ball between the ankles, give it a good hug. We're going to lift double. So again, this time we're going to try to lift exhale, and then inhale. Good. Exhale. Remember again, if you needed that support for the head, hopefully you've grabbed that. No matter what we do and how we do it, we want to think about how is this feeding me from my core. And that can really help us re-encourage proper movements. When I teach my 200-hour yoga teacher training, I really focus on this. So we're approaching our yoga asanas from a very different perspective from what's traditionally or typically brought to the plate. Doing great, Lainey. So we're going for 10. You're almost there. Keep the bottom oblique lifted. You can stay right along with Lainey. Awesome. All right, ball gets removed. Stretch it out. And at this point, you've probably guessed it. We're going to our 2-to-1 ratio. We're going to stay on the side, Lainey. Okay. Awesome. Here we go. All right, inhale, lifting the top leg, exhale, lowering. We're going for 10. Bottom oblique is lifted. Watch that the hip doesn't roll forward or back. Perfect. Foot is flexed. Imagine a rod shooting out your heel, and the foot staying flexed, thigh bones staying parallel. Again, if you're having pain on that bottom hip, pad the hip. Simple, easy solution. No excuses, right? So inhaling, lifting, just stay with Lainey's pace. A lot of times our brain will say, oh, if I go quicker, I can sneak in an extra 5 or 10. Not necessary, especially if you're losing stability. Awesome. All right, we're going to move the ball out to the side. So we're going to work with 10 now. Top leg hovers, which is a challenge enough in itself. Exhale and inhale. Exhale, just to keep that top leg from moving is a good challenge. So now if you're finding that, oh my gosh, I can't get the bottom leg up to meet the top leg, here's a thought, lower the top leg down. Simple, easy fix. Nice job, Lainey. Keep the bottom oblique fully charged, pelvic core constantly engaging. Once your brain makes a memory of the leg, go back to that pelvic floor. Make sure it's surging and charging. So we'll finish up with our last few. You're doing great, Lainey. Awesome. All right, last one. Get that ball between the ankles. Give it a good hug. Keep it hugged at least 30% of your capacity. All right, when you're ready, exhaling, lifting, and then inhaling, lowering. Exhaling, lifting, and inhaling, lowering. Nice job. Every time you lift your legs, your bottom oblique should not push into the floor. I'm talking about the musculature, not the flesh. So keeping that lifted, also the shoulders should not be shrugging and tensing. Keep that area of the body as relaxed as possible. Great job. Stay with Lainey. And then when you're ready, stretch it out. And then roll onto your abdomen, just sit back onto your heels. Maybe this time roll your toes under for a little bit of a foot stretch as well. Take a couple of breaths there. Great job. So Lainey's going to roll back out onto her belly, and we're going to work with some lower body. Now again, we tend to, in a lot of our workouts, categorize, oh, I went to the gym and I worked legs today, or oh, I went to the gym and I worked arms today. But your arms and your legs are an extension of your core. And then, oh, I went and I did my core work for the week. Everything should revolve around this. So we're first here, then we're extending into the lower body. So today we're going to work with 3 different exercises. Yes, focusing on the glutes, focusing on the hamstrings. So it's not that we don't want these movements or these muscle groups to develop. We just tend to be over-focusing on them and not focusing enough on the internal core, the pelvic floor, and then that medius and maximus. So ball goes between the ankles. Sometimes it can be helpful to be in a tabletop, set up your ball, and then come down prone. So do what works. Legs stay parallel. I'm going to move this up a little bit more, Lainey, see if that can help you stay a little bit more even. Awesome. And then I'm going to try to keep Lainey on track here. Neutral pelvis, root your pubis bone. Shoulders are relaxed. So we're going to lift the legs up a few inches. So lift up those legs, Lainey. And now we're going to squeeze on the ball and hold for 3 counts 10 times. So here we go. Inhale. Exhale, hug the ball. Just hug against it. And then inhale, release it subtly without it falling out. Exhale, hug. So we're going to do 10. And then release. When you're hugging, I want you to make sure that there's no external rotation. So really keep your femur bones plugged in at neutral. Hug in the inner thighs, hug in the inner shin, and then obviously hug in the ankles. When our body is trying to kind of wiggle around those weaker muscles and use the larger, stronger ones, even the feet can curl, trying to compensate. Lainey, I want you to try to lift this leg a little higher. There we go. So Lainey, like me and most of us, have a stronger leg. We're trying to even that out. So 10 3-count squeezes or holds. And then after that, she's going to pause down. Again, pubis bone is rooted. Exhale, contracting the pelvic floor. She's going to lift up to that hover position again. This time we're going to work with a hamstring curl. So exhale, flex the feet and curl to the hips or glutes. So curl it in as close as you can, Lainey. Nice. And then point the toes and release it out. So a little choreography, hopefully you can manage. Nice. And then again, exhaling. You'll notice this is not easy to keep that ball under control. And then slowly extending out, point your toes. Awesome. This is challenging, isn't it? Yeah. Exhale, flex. Imagine a string bringing you in towards your glutes. There should be no lower back pain. When she curls in, she's staying rooted in her pubis bone and lifted through her front rectus and transversus. It's not that she's pulling it off the floor. She's just trying not to go gushy belly on herself. By keeping the femur heads and the thighs themselves, the femur bone itself, parallel, we're not getting caught up in the medius and minimus. We're staying in that maximus and hamstring as well as the pelvic floor and transversus. Nice. So for those of us that are kind of misdeveloped in the backside, the knees tend to want to flare out, and then there's jamming on the sacrum. We don't want to do any harm to that sacral area. If you struggle with balance poses, like tree, or any sort of balancing leg work, this is a great movement to help develop those muscles. So we're going to 10. Nice job. Just take your time. Control that ball. Lainey's doing a really good job. This is, again, not easy. You'll probably say, well, why can't I just have no ball between the ankles? Well, then where's the stability factor? And I want you to charge those tiny little itty bitty muscles that we're missing. All of that fascia, all of those fibers and those tissues that we tend to just override and go, oh, those don't matter. Well, they matter. Perfect. Now you're going to come up to a 90-degree angle in the knee and ankle. Hug the ball, no external rotation on the feet. I call this raise the roof. Making sure your hip bones, the ASIS on the front of the pelvis, are not pumping into the floor. Really work hard, Lainey, to keep that front rectus and transversus strong with the pelvic floor. So we're going to raise the roof on the exhale. Exhale, push your feet towards the sky. Inhale, lower down. So we're working 9 more. So if we're lacking glute and hamstring strength, all of a sudden our 90-degree angle is going to open to like 180. So keep the 90-degree angle. Keep the tension here. I mean a good tension. And it's not a high lift. You're only lifting enough that you're not feeling lower back pain, you're not feeling sacral pain, your knees aren't flaring, and your lower belly is able to stay contracted. Nice job. The ball will also keep us on track for kind of micromanaging that stronger leg in combination with the weaker leg. So it helps us stay more even. Awesome. So when you're ready, I'll remove that ball. Perfect. Take a moment, breathe. And then when you're ready, roll onto your back for some bridging. So one of our final movements of today's practice. So with bridging, for many of us, if you come from a yoga background, we're taught to tuck the heels underneath the hips. Feel free to stretch it out, Lainey, that's just fine. Or really bring the feet in tight, and this can really jam the lower back. But also, if you have tight front line of the body, it's going to be really hard to take this tightness into an openness, especially if we haven't properly worked a stretching regimen to really work our body more functionally. So when I approach bridge, yoga, or any other practice, I'm asking you to pull your heels out a little bit, as well as keep them narrow, about the sit bones width. So Lainey's going to walk her feet together a little bit closer. Perfect. And then we're trying to make sure that our feet are even. Bring this foot out a little bit more towards the window. Perfect. And if necessary, line up your toes against a baseboard if you don't have someone to check, or if when you sit back all the time your feet move. So again, these little things really matter. Okay, so what we're going to do is ball goes between the knees, just above the knee on the inner thigh, and then your feet should basically mimic the squeeze of the ball. So if Lainey squeezes on the ball and her feet feel too wide, she's just going to narrow them up a little bit. Pretty simple solution. Stay rooted through the entire foot rather than staying in the heel. I want you to feel very grounded, very active. Neutral pelvis. The goal is not to have this big bowed position. We're lifting the drawbridge. We're lifting the neutral pelvis, neutral spine to rest on the width of the shoulders and on the soles of the feet. So maybe you're lifted 2 to 4 fingers widths. That's it. And then we're going to absolutely keep that height. We're not going to wiggle and rock. All right, inhale, prepare. Exhale, press up, keeping neutral body. Perfect. So Lainey might find that that is even too high, but I'm going to challenge her and see how well she does. All right, hug on the ball. Now listen carefully. When I have her lift her right leg, she should feel no rocking or shifting. So she's really going to push into her base leg and really hug against the green ball. She should feel glute firing, but no lower back pain. The first thing we're going to do is barely lift the heel off the floor. Not quite yet. I'll give her a break a moment here. So think about like a little trainer, high-heeled shoe, a little starter that a little girl would wear. That's how high she's going to lift. So inhale, prepare. Lift that heel barely off the floor. When she lifts the heels, 5 breaths for me, Lainey, she's not going to lift that thigh any higher or push the hip any higher. She's going to stay very even in this portion of the body. And then after she's done those 5 breaths, she's going to bring the heel down and pause. So take your time. Perfect. And then now this time, she's going to barely lift her entire foot. So when you're ready, Lainey, barely take the entire foot off the floor. It's like an inch. You don't need to go any higher. Just stay nice and low. Thighs are even. If you notice your floating thigh is higher, push more into your base leg. Good. 5 breaths, Lainey. If you feel more comfortable with 2 breaths or 3 breaths, feel free, work there. I want you to feel comfortable yet challenged. So now we'll lower her down, we'll take a break. This next one, she's going to lift her hips and extend her whole leg from the knee. I want you to focus on a slight more internal rotation that will help you keep neutral and absolutely keeping the hips level. That is our focus. The leg is just an extra little decoration on the gift. Here we go. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, float everything up all at once. Root into your base leg, no shift. Extend the leg all the way out, parallel. So thighs are parallel, toes are pointing up. 5 breaths for me, Lainey. Really push into the base leg and keep this hip from sinking down. You really should feel like welcome to your hamstrings. Remember, hamstrings are an important muscle group. We just tend to focus on them in not such a great way. Nice. And then slowly lower your hips down. Excellent. I'll remove the ball. Just stretch that leg out. Whichever leg needs a little bit of a stretch. Perfect. Excellent. And then balls in again. Go between the knees. Does that feel okay? There we go. Awesome. Feet are parallel. I'm going to check that. Turn your toes a little bit more forward, Lainey. Root into your opposite leg. Hug in on the green ball. Pelvic floor contracts. Float it up, exhale. Nice. Inhale, prepare. Barely lift your heel off the floor. So when you lift your heel, if you feel a shift, go back and do it again. I want you to think about sneaking into these movements. 5 breaths. Nice job. Focus on breathing laterally into your rib cage rather than belly breathing. Nice. And then after that 5th breath, set the heel down, regroup, hips stay level. Now barely float the foot up off the floor. Nice. Surge into your base leg. Hug against the green ball. Firmly push into the entire foot. We're going 5 breaths. Higher does not equal better with the foot. Lainey's about an inch or so off the floor. That's plenty. And then when you're ready, toe touch down here, drop the pelvis, pause, take a break. We're going to move right back into it so you don't lose ambition. Exhale, float it back up. Root into your base leg. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, slide the leg out slowly. Flex your foot. You should see your leg line true to neutral. Inhaling through the nose, hug on the green ball. Exhaling, zip up through your inner thigh into your pelvic core. Nice job. Really push into your base leg even more, Lainey. I know this is her challenge side, so she's going to work twice as hard. Nice job. Drop it down. Absolutely, absolutely 2-to-1 ratio. Most of us are so asymmetrical with our leg development. You so need the 2-to-1 ratio when you work legs. All right, here we go. Engage. Bring your feet a little bit closer. You always like widening, you know. Back up into bridge. Exhale. Press into the leg. And now let's lift the heel. Inhaling through the nose. Exhaling. 5 breaths. I would be okay at this point with 2 to 3 breaths. Nice job. And then I'm actually going to have her go right into lifting the foot. So she's going to lift the foot. Again, thighs are staying parallel. Hips are level. Once you lift this hip a little bit more, there we go. Nice. And feel free to make it a little bit more easy. You can drop the pelvis down a couple inches. She's working awesome at this height though, so no need to. And then when she's ready, drop the foot down first. Slowly drop the hips down. Again, let's not lose ambition. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, float it up. Hug against the ball, root into your base leg. Extend the lower leg out. Flex back on the foot. Imagine that floating leg rolling internally. We're going 5 breaths here. You can choose a lesser breath count if necessary. Push into your base leg even more. There we go. Keep the floating hip from sagging. If it is, drop the hips down. Nice job with the foot. Drop the body down. Great job. I'm going to remove the ball. Why don't you do a nice little bound angle here. Just drop the knees open. Stretch it out. Arch the back. Nice job. Last movement of the day today. So we're going to work with some prone lift. Lainey's going to guide her legs together, flip over onto her belly. I'll give her the trusty ball. So we're going to work with that prone lift we've been kind of working with the last few weeks. So she's in cactus arms, her neck is neutral, her legs are very much parallel, and the tops of the feet are rooted, as well as her pubis bone is anchored. So we're going to come up and hover first. Inhale, prepare, exhale, lift. Perfect. One thing I want her to watch, just hold and breathe with me if you'd like to. You can turn your head if you need to. Her chin is not jarring out. Her brain is trying to compensate, saying, oh, if I jet my chin forward, I must be lifting higher. That's not the case. Nice long line. Chest is open, elbows are not pulled back. Can you pull your elbows back for me, Lainey? Perfect. Bring them back out again. We're lifting up. So one more good breath here. And then exhale, lower down. Perfect. This time we're going to come up and pulse the arms. So nice big breath in. And then lift, exhale. Good. So inhale here. Exhale, pulse back on the arms. 1. And then down. 2. Keep the torso steady. Move just the arms. 3. 4. Again, she's lifting straight up. She's not pulling back on her triceps. Neck is neutral. She's calm. Legs are not flying off the floor. So we're working for 10. Nice job. You're doing great. Perfect. And then lower yourself down. So I'm going to challenge you and Lainey today. She's going to remove the ball out from under her. And she's going to come down onto the floor. So we're going to check to see how all of this extension work has been working on her. Neutral pelvis, rooted pubis bone. Legs are anchored in parallel. Core is strong and contracted. Let's just lift to hover. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, lift. So contracting the railroad ties of her back, the erectors, deep transversus and pelvic floor. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling. Back of the neck is nice and long, no creases. Good. Now she's going to go into pulsing. So we're going to go 10 pulses. 1. Exhale. Good. Exhale. So exhale and engage upper traps and rhomboids between the shoulder blades. Watch again for that pulled back with the elbow. For those of us that are tight in the mid-back and underdeveloped or overstretched in the upper back, that happens. So pay attention. Ask a family member or a friend to checkpoint you if necessary. Lower body should not be flailing. Nice job. Rest down. Breathe into your back body. Take a moment. Nice. Sit back onto your heels. Give it a good stretch in your back. Great job. And now slowly roll your toes under, come into a standing forward bend. If necessary, again, feel free bent knees so that you can bring your body weight more forward. We should feel a long line through the spine. If you feel a big hump, like you could stick a basketball between your belly and thighs, bend your knees for yourself. Awesome. All right, roll yourself up into functional extension. So pelvis waves forward as you extend back. Open the front line of your body. Feels so good. We love it in standing here. And then hands to prayer. Awesome work. Thanks, Lainey. Thank you guys so much for practicing with us. We're halfway through our 10-week series. So during this next week, I want to encourage you again, work 3 to 5 times with this series. Or if necessary, feel free to go back to week 4, week 3 if you need to. Most importantly, pay attention to the little things. That's what's really going to make a big difference in your everyday life. Thanks for joining us. Namaste.